The response to the recent 518 public hearing has been a witch hunt attempting to criminalize the act of even asking questions. This is a threat to free speech that cannot be reconciled with the principles of South Korea's liberal democratic society. There is an attitude of idolization about 518 here at play. How did this come to be? The source of this attitude comes from the formation of a specific political cartel during 518. During the Kim Young-sam administration, former President Chun Doo-han was criminally tried and punished under special law. In light of President Park Geun Hye's recent impeachment, I began to look with newfound interest at the criminal proceedings from President Chun Doo-han's case, such as aspects like the witnesses who gave testimony and the attitude of the press. Prior to this, I'd assumed the recent impeachment was the first situation in which the media had so one-sidedly, almost as if they conspired together, pushed for such a distorted story. As I later discovered, former President Chun Doo-han's trial was actually a near-identical precedent.
이것의 선례가 되는 사태가 있었는데 그게 바로 전두환 대통령 재판 때라는 것을 알게 됐습니다.
I belatedly learned that during the special legislation process for President Chun's trial, as well as during the trial itself, the press united to block diverse testimonies from reaching the public. Despite this censorship, the press ironically presented itself as upholding the attitude of setting history right.
줄기차게 언론이 다 일치해서 한 것이라는 어떤 선례가 거기에 있었다는 것을 어렴풋이 이제 알게 되었습니다. 그런데
But what is one thing they overlooked?
못한 건 뭐가 있을까요?
They forgot to consider that trial records are permanent. They can't be erased. Those records remained as quiet embers for many decades until now, where they will play a key role in revealing the truth. It's quite ironic that the trial was initially intended to prosecute President Chun, but its records are now being used to clear his name of widespread misinformation. Those trial records contain huge amounts of information provided by witnesses with first-hand experiences and memories fresh in their minds. Modern researchers have sifted through that information goldmine. Kim Young-sam ultimately became president through a three-way political merger involving supporters of Prime Minister Kim Jong-pil and former presidents Chun Doo-han and Doe Tae Woo, who were backed by the Democratic Justice Party. As a result of the 518 special law and President Chun's trial, the dominant party forces during Chun's administration and the preceding four other Republican presidential eras were completely demonized. It was an incredible political opportunity for Kim Young-sam's supporters to obtain outright control of the party. What that means is that the entry point for Kim's supporters to seize power had a lot to do with how certain aspects of 518 had been dealt with and disregarded. What is the connection between former President Kim Dae-jung's political influence then and the deep roots of the current Democratic Party now? The two can be considered to act in collusion. For this, we commonly use the term cartel, and we can observe that a specific type of cartel was formed during 518.
그5.18이라는 주제에 대해서는 일종의 카르텔이 이루어지듯이 되었던 현상을 관찰할 수 있습니다.
Even from the things I've talked about so far, what kinds of problems did the formation of this cartel trigger? The public drew their conclusions based on a biased, predetermined perspective fed to them through the press's immense effort to conceal, rather than bring to light the numerous logistical problems with the trial. Not only that, but the more serious issue is that by demonizing the act itself of questioning aspects of 518 that fail to fit within South Korea's constitutional values, it encourages a narrative that can easily flow in other, misguided directions than that of a liberal democracy. Because
자유민주주의와는
518 is
다른
treated as though there are
방향으로
no aspects of
연결되기
it
쉬운
that conflict
토양을
with the
만들어
values of a
둔
liberal
것이죠. 자유민주
democracy,
체제에서
people
수용하기
begin
어려운
to accept
것도
ideas that shouldn't be
그
accepted.
내에
And this
마치
opens
없는
up a
것처럼
path towards
취급되었기
defending
때문에
those very contrasting
사실은 수용하지
aspects.
말아야 될
Where
내용까지도
does that lead?
막 수용하면서
Ultimately, it
한편으론
leads to
그것을
the denial
옹호하는
of liberal
방향으로
democracy and
나아갈
provides an immense
입구를
opportunity for other
제공한 거죠. 자,
influences,
그것은
mainly
무엇으로
pro-North
연결되냐?
Korean, to
결국
take hold.
자유민주주의를 부정하는
In
대표적으로
addition, another issue that
종북적인
convolutes our
세력에게
understanding of
대단한
518
그
is that student
기회를
protests
주게
were
됐죠.
happening at the same time.
사실 학생
In Korea, the
운동권까지
title
있었기
May
때문에
mentality is
이
used to describe the
5.18에
national spirit
대한
and general
해석
atmosphere of the
문제는
people during 518.
자유민주주의적인 해석으로
In
뒤에
reality, May
발전하니까
mentality was a spirit of
가장
liberal
심한 경우엔
democracy, but
종북적인 해석,
today, mistakenly
5월
grouped with
정신,
student
그러면
protests,
자유민주주의
there is a
정신을
tendency
잘
to associate May
표상하는 게 아니라
mentality not just with ideals that aren't
묵은 철수,
representative
미제
of liberal
타도 뭐 이런
democracy,
식의
but in extreme
북의
cases,
주장에
to
유사한
interpret it
정신이
as a
5월
pro-North
정신인
Korean attitude
것처럼
with objectives
흘러가는
like the
방향이
withdrawal of US forces and
많은
overthrowing of
그 뿌리를
Americanism.
낳게 된 것이죠.
Let's consider
성역화하는
some
것의
more on the
문제를
detriments
조금만
of
더
viewing a
살펴보죠.
historical event as sacred
프랑스
or taboo.
혁명의
In
잔악한
hindsight of the
그
French
어떤
Revolution,
학살적인
current
문제점에
research has
대해서 연구가
instigated a
한참
call
지나서
for the
나왔습니다.
revolution's
뒤에 이제
September
점점
massacres to be
프랑스
termed
혁명에 대한
genocide.
수정주의 뭐 이렇게 불리는데요.
Did people look
자,
at the
그렇게
rise
프랑스
of
혁명을
French
보면 프랑스
Revolution
혁명에 대한
revisionism and
모독이니까
say,
그런
don't do
연구하지
that kind
마라.
of
그런 발표하지
investigation,
마라.
don't give
그런
that kind of
입장이
presentation,
되었을까요?
because it's
아니라는
blasphemous
거죠.
against history?
그리고
That was not the
나중에는
case.
오히려 이 수정주의 입장이
Not only
너무나
that, but
세져서
even when the
도대체 프랑스
revisionist
혁명을
view
긍정할 수
eventually garnered
있을지조차
so much evidence that
모르겠다라고
French academia
프랑스
became
학계에서부터
skeptical on the view
회의론이
of glorifying the
왔을
French
때조차도
Revolution. The
사실은
scholars deny the
프랑스
significance of the French
혁명군의가
Revolution
지닌
in
근대
spreading a
민주혁명
mentality
중에
of freedom,
하나로서 영국
equality, and
혁명과는
human rights
상당히
throughout feudal
다르지만
Europe.
그래서 러시아 혁명으로
This was not the
연결되는
case
위험성을
either.
갖고 있긴 하지만
Despite that the
그래도 그
French
정신상에
Revolution is
있어서
very different from the
자유평등
English,
가계를
and so
인권선언으로
has a danger
부르짖고
of being grouped in the same
신분사회적인 유럽의
category as the Russians,
근대사회로의 이행을
scholars have not denied the
굉장히
significance of
영향을
the French
주고
Revolution.
전파했던 그
I believe this
복합적인
kind
이해를
of
다 부정했느냐?
multifaceted awareness
그러지
and
않았다는
framework of
거죠.
examination
저는
must
이런
likewise be applied to
복합적인
518.
인식과 틀이 5.18에도 당연히 적용돼야 된다고 봅니다.